Thank you for joining me for another preview video where we'll be looking at Arsenal taking on Newcastle United at the Emirates Stadium in the Premier League. So let's get straight into it. So just a few insight facts about Arsenal v Newcastle. So according to this, Arsenal have won 14 of their last 15 Premier League matches against Newcastle, losing the other 2-1 in April 2018. So decent record. Newcastle United have lost their last 8 away Premier League matches against Arsenal since a 1-0 victory in November 2010. And I'm just going to read this final one because the others aren't that relevant, if I'm honest with you, and they're not that great of a fact. So this last one here, Arsenal have kept 25 Premier League clean sheets against Newcastle. Only Manchester United have kept more against a specific opponent in the competition's history, and that's against Tottenham and Aston Villa for him. So yeah, according to that, everything's pointing towards our direction. And it's not that long ago we did play him in the third round in the FA Cup, and it was a pretty tricky game where we had to take to extra time to beat him by 2-0. Had that sort of stayed within 90 minutes, both teams would have ended with 1 point each. And also, remember those 2 massive missed opportunities by Andy Carroll. We have to bear in mind Newcastle United will have Callum Wilson, and he's a lot more prolific, and had those chances fallen to him, things might have been different. So without wasting any more time, let's get into the predicted lineup. So I'm going to go with, first and foremost, the lineup I reckon Mikel Arteta will deploy out against Newcastle United, and then we'll have a little review of my predicted lineup, or the team I'd like to sort of see. So this is the lineup I reckon Mikel Arteta will go with. We've got Bernd Leno in goal for obvious reasons, because apparently he's the only goalkeeper, or the only decent keeper we have at the club. We've got Bellerina as our right back, Holding as he's now become Arteta's new, teacher's pet. He loves him up now, so he gets every game time. And when he signed that contract, and all these Arsenal fans were saying, yeah, it's not too bad, as a squad player, including myself, I said, as a squad player, I don't mind that. However, do not tell me you're signing on Rob Holding to a 4-year extension and then making him our first team starter. Not good enough. He can't get into any top 6 Premier League club. Yet, why does he walk into our team? Anyways, moving on to his partner, David Luiz, who's not had a bad season, if I'm honest with you. Usually he just makes mistakes. He's a massive disaster. We've not had a disaster showcase from David Luiz. Yes, he's had some poor games, but he's not really cost us any games so far this season. Now that I've said that, watch him get a red card and ruin a game for us on Monday. But if that was the case, then I guess he's just doing a David Luiz really, because that calamitous show is always around the corner for him. But hopefully he just maintains that consistency where he's not making massive errors and just sort of plodding along decently. Moving on alongside Kieran Tierney, yes, I know he's a doubt, but there have been reports that they've had an MRI scan and it's not as bad as first feared, and he should be fit. So hopefully KT's back, and we were missing him quite often. And for those who are mentioning Arsenal need a number 10, well, Kieran Tierney in the game against Newcastle United created more chances than our whole team collectively against Crystal Palace on Thursday night. That's all you need to know when you look at the sort of approach Liverpool have with attacking wing backs, and they're the creators. And then you realise why Liverpool won a league and the Champions League without a number 10, yet our fans seem to believe in number 10 is all is required to win anything or to progress, and that's the only way you can create chances on the pitch. Well, evidently not, because Kieran Tierney is our biggest chance creator so far this season. Moving on to the other positions, we've got Granit Xhaka, who's had a decent game. For the bad errors he makes, he kind of makes up for him with the last ditch tackles, but then why make those errors in the first place? And that's what you get with Granit Xhaka, inconsistency. Moving on, Thomas Partey, you saw within that 15-20 minutes cameo he had against Palace what he could bring to the team, and he's head and shoulders by far our best midfielder. So if he's fit, start him. Emil Smith Rowe, do I need to say anything? He seems to be the only thing that seems to sort of drive and create chances. He wasn't at his best against Crystal Palace. Could that be to maybe fatigue? You know, he's young. He's not played this many games in a row within a first team setup. So is it all sort of getting to him? Perhaps, but I'd still start him because we've got nothing else really there. I wouldn't play Willock. He's just useless. And as for Willian, what I would do is just make his life very uncomfortable, that come summer he just leaves and goes, you know what, I don't even want to live in London, don't care about my restaurant with David Luiz, I just want to go wherever and whoever would take me so I can play first team football. So for me, make him an outcast, never play him again, and that's the only way we can get rid of his stupid ridiculous wage and his 3-year contract. But moving up top, I think Arteta will play Oba, Laka and Saka. I think with everything that's gone on with Martinelli and that, you know, long injury he's had, and since his comeback, yes, he came back a bit early, but then he's had a few issues, and I think just to protect him, Mikel Arteta might reserve him and not play him from the outset. So with that said, I'm going to go to my predicted lineup. So fairly similar, same formation. We've got a 4-3-3, Burton in goal. I've gone with Ainsley rather than Bellerina as right back. I just think I don't even need to say anything. Do I really need to justify why Ainsley is ahead of right back? But why Ainsley is ahead of Bellerina? And if I really need to explain that, then I guess you've never watched this, or you've never really watched football in general. You've never seen Bellerina play. But moving on, David Luiz, as I've said, he's not too bad. And I will bring back Gabriel Magalhaes because he's been our best centre back so far. And yes, by the way, I've not included Pablo Mari in either squad because, you know, we still owe Flamingo £1 million if he was to play. So I reckon we're going to avoid playing Mari until sort of February. So this clause, I believe it's within a certain time frame. And from what I've read, it's up until sort of Jan if he was to play 10 games, you know, before sort of February. After February, I believe the stipulation within that contract sort of increases so he can play more games without us paying him. It's a bit complicated, but something along those lines. So I don't think we're going to see Pablo Mari until February when he just, you know, from a miracle recovers from his injury as the club are putting out. So until then, go back with Gabby because Gabby has been solid for us. And remember, he's what, 22, 23 years of age right now, so he's still, you know, got growth on his side. And hopefully with Saliba out on loan at Nice, and, you know, probably I'm hoping he'd come back and Arteta could at least give him an opportunity, because I would love to see those two as our long-term centre-back partnership. So Gabby gets into my team. Kieran Tierney, obvious reasons. Yes, I've gone with Xhaka as well. Partey for the same reason, and Emil Smith-Rowe. Up front though, I have not gone with Aubameyang, and that's because he's just not doing it anymore. I mean, how long are we going to continue with Aubameyang until we say, you know what, he needs to be dropped? Because Lacazette has been dropped, and there was a point in time in the season where he banged 3 goals in a game. I mean, 3 goals consecutive, and then all of a sudden, the game against Man City, he gets dropped so that Willian can be occupied as a number 9. And then you think to yourself, why? And then yet, Aubameyang does not get dropped. It's as if Aubameyang is undroppable, and for me, no. I don't care if you sign that contract. Do not care if you are the captain. Maybe that's exactly what he needs. He's too comfortable at Arsenal. He just needs a wake-up call. And for me, sorry Aubameyang, you're on the bench, and he won't even be my first choice coming off the bench in terms of attacking option. I would actually bring on Balogun. And yes, I've said it, I would bring on Balogun. He hasn't signed a contract elsewhere, so for me, let's try get him tied up to a contract right now. Let's give him those game times, because clearly Lacazette hasn't really, you know, made the mark yet so far this season. Oba has just been terrible. Eddie, I don't even want to sort of see really. Whenever the opportunity has been presented to Eddie, he's never really taken it. So Balogun comes off the bench, and Oba, mate, you're on the bench. And whether you come on, I'd rather see, as I said, Balogun, even Pepe come on ahead of Oba, because, as I mentioned, even the game against Newcastle United in the FA Cup, Pepe was more effective. It's just Oba got that goal right at the end. So that's my team lineup that I would sort of play out, play against Newcastle United. But anyways, I just want to sort of go through some comments that you guys presented, and I sort of spoke on the Aubameyang video. And so certain comments I've got was, Willian was a huge mistake. Pepe is better but not good enough for the team in my opinion. Too hyped and will not succeed here, by Sam Brady. Ali Abad, last word, thing I will honestly miss about Ozil. So I did ask, what would you miss about Ozil the most, as he's nearing to go over to Fenerbahce and agreements have taken place for Arsenal and himself that they've terminated his contract, and now he's a free agent and will be going over to Turkey. And so Ali mentions the thing he will miss most about Ozil is the moment we signed him and the excitement I felt at his prospects. Yeah, man, I agree. It's just unfortunate that he didn't really live up to that hype. But yeah, Travis Fernando, Pedro Neto. So I did mention who would I want to sort of see replacing Nicolas Pepe at Arsenal. And before we replace Pepe, we need to get rid of Nelson and Willian, who are, you know, also within the same position, but in my opinion worse than him. So I think all three need to go. And as I said, I would bring in Neto. And I also mentioned Eze. So Travis goes, Pedro Neto sounds promising, but we keep changing minds because of cheapness. And yeah, that's an interesting one. Let me just quickly show you something on that whole cheapness thing. So I saw this by Chris Wheatley. Arsenal have been tracking Freddie Woodman for several years. The 23-year-old is one of several goalkeepers on AFC's shortlist as they aim to sign a shot stopper this month. So remember, there was all this discussion that they sort of panicked, purchased Runnison, and he really doesn't really look up to be a decent replacement for Bernd Leno. So we're out in the market looking for a replacement. And then what makes me, just hear this. I want you to look at this word here, the 23-year-old. No, where is it? Here. Arsenal have been tracking Freddie Woodman for several years. Several years. That's what, more than one, more than two. So you've done decent, extensive research on this player. Now I want you to cast your mind to Arteta's quote about 2 weeks ago on Runnison, and this is exactly what he said. So let me start from here rather than going through the whole passage. The discussion we had in the summer with the club are a little bit different to what actually happened because of the transfer window and the situation that developed with Emi. We didn't have much time to do what we really wanted, and we decided to assess the situation in the window, which is what we are trying to do, and we will make a decision on how we want to move forward in those three positions. So this was addressing the whole goalkeeper. And hear this, we didn't have much time to do what we really wanted to do. You didn't have much time, so you panicked. But hold up, how did you panic when you have been tracking this guy for several years? Can someone explain that? How do you track someone for several years, and then when you needed a goalkeeper in the summer, you just sort of said, oh, Amy left, and then we panicked, we didn't know what to do, so we got recommended Runnison, and that's why he's here. Like, are these journalists that stupid that they don't ask these questions? So remember that article I presented, yeah? And it talks about these positive journalists, and they refrain from asking the right questions. Why didn't Chris Wheatley or the other journalists put pressure on Arteta when he mentioned that? Why haven't they said, surely your scouting system have identified a few goalkeepers? Did you not review any of those on the shortlist before making this commitment to go out and rush and buy Runnison? And then you wonder why I don't trust the process. The process is to scout a player for several years and to completely dismiss that and go for Runnison. That's the process that we are told to entrust. Apologies, let me just continue on with the comments. MN Wonderland, what about bringing Adama Traore? I think Liverpool are interested, but I take him And your man I mentioned previously, Rodrigo de Paul. Adama Traore, I mean, he's got the pace, but for me, no end product, and that's a big issue. I just sort of see Alex Iwobi or Theo Walker. At least Theo at times was a bit clinical, but Adama Traore reminds me of Saint Maximin at Newcastle United. They're all great up until the final third, and then that's it. And for me, if we really wanted a player with no end product, then we've got the perfect one in house at Nicolas Pepe. So makes no sense for me to go out and get a hench version of Nicolas Pepe. Not for me, really. Not a bad shout. Maybe 2 years ago when he was in that, you know, rich vein of form, I might have considered, but he's not been consistent enough. And Rodrigo de Paul, as mentioned, I don't mind Rodrigo de Paul, but he won't be my sort of top choice. And that leads us on nicely to this question by Matt Evans. What are your thoughts on Manor Solomon? I don't know too much on Manor Solomon because I don't really watch the Ukrainian league. I watched the game when Shakhtar smacked Real Madrid, and he played brilliantly then. And I can't really go for a player based on one performance. So I thought, you know what, let's look at Manor Solomon and let's compare him to some of the other players we have been looking at as well within similar positions. So as you can sort of see here, he obviously plays in the Ukrainian Premier League, and within the 5 games he's got 3 goals. Champions League, is this season? Because I swear he's played more. Okay, apologies, so he's played a combine of 6, but he started 4 and came off the bench at 2. And within the Champions League he's got 2 goals. So not that great. Let's look at other players. We've got Emi Buendia, and there are strong rumours by Fabrizio saying that we are still in discussion with Emi, and they play roughly similar positions. So if we look at his stats in the Championship so far this season, he's got 20 appearances, 7 goals, 6 assists. So that's 13 goal contribution within 20 games, and that's really excellent. And he had decent stats as well in the Premier League last season with Norwich. However, my question mark of Emi is his stature, as well as I always sort of question why hasn't any major big teams gone in for him. But my preferred option is always going to be this guy here, Houssem Aouar. I just think he's very, very talented. When I watch him, it's like watching Mozart. It's just very beautiful. He just kind of, when he's on the ball, it's just everything goes slow and he dictates play. It's like what Jack Grealish does. You know how when Jack Grealish gets the ball, he sort of stops play, slows down everything, and then that's it. He just goes 100 miles per hour, and then the opponent is in like a shock state and they can't react to his movements. And Houssem Aouar's got that thing about him as well, where he creates spaces just by getting the ball, stopping it, and then out of nowhere bursting, like he runs and bursts into space, and then that's it, creates the opportunity for others around him. And what he does that's really great, that's from what I've seen often, is that he might not necessarily get the assist, but he gets that pre-assist, which creates opportunities for players around him. And we've seen what he's done with Lyon in the Champions League campaign last season. So let's just look at his stats. He's managed 14 starts as well as 1 off the bench. He's got 3 goals, 3 assists, which is not the greatest if I'm honest with you. But as I said to you, he's not going to have the greatest of stats because he does so much other things within his play that you don't really see. And I might be a bit biased because I have watched a lot more Houssem Aouar than I have watched Buendia and Manor Solomon. So apologies, I couldn't give too much information on Manor Solomon. Would I take him if he sort of continues on and if he can maintain that consistency from that game I've seen in the Champions League? Then yeah, why not? So I'm not opposed to it. Would he be better than what we have currently? Definitely. So it will be a decent signing for me, but would it be the best signing in that position? I don't know, and I can't give you that verdict just yet. As I said, my preferred option is Houssem Aouar, and that's because I've seen enough of him for me to understand that he will make a massive difference in the Arsenal team. Moving on to other questions. And he goes, I see glimpses of, sorry, about Nicolas Pepe, he says, I see glimpses of a great player, but hasn't had enough time to be consistent. He was brought in as a plan B and hasn't been treated fairly, but he needs to go as Arteta will not utilise him if he stays. Absolutely agree. And Adam G, Willian is the biggest flop going. I really wanted Pepe to do well at Arsenal. I think we all wanted Pepe to do well, especially on the fee we spent on him. And it's just unfortunate it's not really happened. And especially when you kind of factor in many rival clubs wanted him, and you can see the jealousy when we got Pepe, and they scratch their heads and, you know, saying amongst themselves, why did he choose Arsenal? Why did he choose Arsenal? But it's just a shame that both parties didn't work out, and and in particular, so long as Arteta is at Arsenal, Pepe will not thrive, not at all. But going back to the game against Newcastle, my prediction will be, I think it's going to be a tough one, and I'm going to go with a 2-1 win. And I'm saying 2-1, but in part of me is thinking a 0-0 draw. Like, my head's saying 0-0 draw, my heart's saying 2-1. So I'm hoping my heart is right. And as always, please let me know what your predicted lineup will be and what your score predictions will be. As always, please like, subscribe, and thank you for listening. Take care.